Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And the firearm that I have on the table today is normally not the type of firearm that I enjoy reviewing. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know that when it comes to bullpup style rifles, I always say bullpups are a solution in search of a problem. They're definitely a cool design, and I understand why some people gravitate towards this design because it does fix some things that you find in traditional rifles. However, there's still a lot of cons to this design. And when it comes to my subscribers and viewers, when we talk about bullpups, I've discovered there's some people out there that absolutely love bullpups and some people that absolutely hate them. I don't really come across a lot of people that are neutral on them or could go either way. You either like it or you don't, and typically I fall into that second category. However, the gun that we have on the table today is manufactured by a company that claims they're taking the bullpup to the next level. They're rethinking it and making it more accessible and better designed for modern shooters that may not like bullpups. But we're going to have to find out if that's the case when it comes to getting this gun to the range. But the gun that we're going to be taking a look at today is the M17S from a company called K&M Arms. Now, I do know they make this gun in a number of different calibers. You'll also notice that the design of this gun takes a lot of inspiration from the AR-15. We have an AR-15 style grip here. We have an AR-15 style magazine well in the back. The upper and lower is put together using pins like an AR-15, and most of this gun is in aluminum, not polymer. Many other bullpups on the market make extensive use of polymer, and I've always kind of felt they are like toys in my hand. They kind of feel a little bit cheap. But I can tell you this all-metal bullpup definitely feels a lot more substantial, and I do like that. But before we talk about the things that I like and don't like about this gun, and of course get it to the range, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool rifle. His name is Jack, and he's a local fan and subscriber. In fact, he's the second person named Jack that has lent guns to the channel, so I affectionately call him Jack number 2. So thank you so much, Jack. It means so much that you let me shoot the awesome guns of your collection. I always want to thank my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here. I couldn't keep all this content coming without their support. And if you guys want to join my Patreon, you can do it for as little as $1 a month. And there's a link in the description below, and you get to see all of these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor who always provides all of the ammunition for these range reports, thus making them financially feasible for me, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And as I often say in these reviews, if you're watching my channel, I know you have a taste in fine firearms because I'm very lucky and get to review awesome guns like this. And you probably have a few very nice firearms in your collection. And maybe you have some pistols that take wood pedal grips that you want to customize and make them unique. Well, I have the perfect grip company for you, Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making one-off customized grips to order out of exotic woods and exotic materials. Mark is an artist. He's a craftsman. He makes things like laminate woods. He can apply snake skin and alligator skin. He can finish the grips in a wide variety of colors and textures, as well as put on custom logos and custom engravings. So I'm going to ask you guys to go over to his website. I'm going to put a pinned comment on this video, and I want you guys to go over there and see what he has to offer. I'm also going to put a discount code for 10% off your first order. So make sure to go over there. Thank him for supporting channels like mine, and when you place that first order, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so once again, what are we talking about today? We're talking about the K&M Arms M17S. This particular example is chambered in .556. The company claims this is the future of bullpups. So we're going to find out, because normally I am not a fan of bullpups, but this thing might change my mind. It has an all-metal upper and lower receiver. It has many AR features. I've already shown you that magwell, the pistol grip, so there is some familiarity there. And this gun is a short stroke gas piston system. So some people are going to love that as well. Some people think that is the best type of semi-automatic action and a rifle you can get. So as always, I like to talk about the things that I like and don't like. And as always, I want to start with the positive first. And I've pretty much already talked about a few of these features and the things that I really like. And the first thing is this is an all-metal firearm. One of the things I don't like about mini bullpups is they are just big chunks of plastic. They're big chunks of polymer and they feel like toys in my hand. They don't really feel like a gun. I understand why they use those materials and I'm not saying they're not durable. It's just a perception of it being cheaper. And of course, perception is reality. But this is a gun made of aluminum and it looks so much nicer. It feels so much nicer. It feels more substantial, but it doesn't really feel all that much heavier. I can tell you it is a little bit heavier, but not by that much. This gun has many AR features, or at least AR stylings. I've already gone over that magazine well. You have a magazine release button here. You have an ambi one on the other side, but we're going to talk about that in just a minute. You also can customize this gun with any type of AR-15 grip that you like. This one just has an A2 grip, which I personally think is fine and just adequate for what the gun is. And this gun also sports something that many bullpups do not, a really nice trigger. Now I know many times when it comes to bullpup triggers, because the mechanism is up here in the front, you have to have some type of lever or rod that goes to the back, and normally that just messes up the trigger pull. But just dry firing this thing on the workbench, it feels absolutely fantastic. So I want to adjust the camera and I want to show you what this trigger pulls at. I want to get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge and also pull this trigger, dry fire it, and show you the reset, because I can tell you I'm really impressed with it and I think you will be too. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera and let's talk about this trigger a little bit more. So I have told you how nice this trigger is for a bullpup rifle. Let's take a closer look at it here. It is skeletonized. It looks very nice. Let me go ahead and drop the magazine. Of course, ensure there's no ammunition in it. Set that aside. And then we will visually inspect the chamber. Of course, it looks like we are clear and we are safe. And now let me show you this trigger pull. It is a hinged trigger, but it has a very, very short take up. You have a nice wall. It's very predictable. And that is a very nice pull. Very light. And then on the reset, very short, and you're right back at that wall. That trigger is amazing for a bullpup. I am very impressed with it. And obviously it's very loud and tactile. I do like that, so you can hear it when you are shooting it if you like to ride the reset. So now let's go ahead and get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge. Let's clear the averages and let's see what this trigger pulls at. This sometimes can be a little bit difficult with these bullpup rifles, but I'll do my best. So our first pull, 2 pounds, 14.0 ounces. 3 pounds, 1.8 ounces. 3 pounds, 8.2 ounces. 2 pounds, 14.3 ounces. And finally we have 3 pounds, 2.2 ounces, which gives us an average of 3 pounds, 1.7 ounces. Now that is really, really light. But let me tell you, with that wall and it being so crisp, I don't think it's too dangerous. But that is a very light and crisp trigger pull in a bullpup, and I have never experienced anything else like this whatsoever in a gun like this. So I am very, very impressed. Hands down, the nicest trigger in a bullpup I've ever shot. So that's all about the trigger. So let's get back to the rest of this range report. And as I hope you can see, this trigger is pretty awesome for a bullpup. In fact, I think it's better than many AR-15s on the market. I am very, very impressed with it. But now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. And really, to be honest with you, there's only two things about this gun that I don't like, and they both deal with the controls. The first thing is going to be the safety. Now, the safety on this gun is actually a bolt style safety, so it goes through the receiver up here, which is very reminiscent of other types of rifles. I would prefer to have a safety like a switch that you normally have on an AR-15. I don't know how they could do that, but that's just what I would prefer. And the other issue is going to be the magazine release buttons, which I spoke about a little bit earlier. Now on this side of the receiver, it's in the normal place where you would find it on an AR-15. However, because this is a bullpup, this is way in the back towards your armpit. So that's not easy to get to. And on this side, we do have an ambi release right here. However, you have the same issue, and it's very close to the bolt release. I don't like this because if you're trying to shoot this gun fast, you might accidentally release the bolt when you don't want to. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Some of the other bullpups that I have reviewed recently do have a magazine release up here, and I kind of feel like this gun definitely needs that. I'm not a big fan of having to take either one of my hands off the gun to drop the magazine. I would love it if it was a push button up here where I could spend most of my time reinserting the next magazine instead of having to find that bolt catch. So it has to do more with the controls than anything else. But as the gun sits on the workbench, those are really the only two things about it that I don't like. So let's get this thing to the range. Is this the future of bullpups like they claim it is? Well, we're about to find out. So I'm going to load up one of these magazines. I'm going to set the target at 10 yards. And I always start out at 10 yards because I just want to get my initial thoughts and impressions. And I also recently just put on this ACOG for it on this review. So I do need to zero this thing in. So just at 10 yards, one magazine. I want to make sure this gun functions and see if I discover anything about it that I like or don't like, and I'll report back to you. So here we go, the first magazine through this, and let's see how it performs. Well, I'm going to have to say for a bullpup, that's actually a pretty darn pleasurable experience. The gun is very well balanced. I've already talked about how nice this trigger is, and I'm also surprised this gun isn't more gassy. Normally when it comes to bullpups and your face being right up here next to the ejection port, it's a little bit gassy. One thing I should mention though, if you're a left-handed shooter, you don't have an option of changing anything and having it eject from the other side. So if you're a lefty, you're probably not going to like this gun. But if you're a righty, it's absolutely fine. But overall, the shooting experience with this is actually very pleasurable, and the gun is very accurate. So far, I'm really impressed. All right, so I'm going to double the distance on this target, go out to about 20 yards, and I'm going to go for the head on this IDPA target, and I just want to see what happens to this group. Now, I know I'm shooting this gun at relatively close distances, but I'm just an average gun guy, and that's just the way that I review these guns. So here we go, 20 yards, another magazine, and let's see, once again, if I discover anything else about this gun that I like or don't like, then I'll report back to you. So here we go, back to the range. And pretty much I have the exact same comments. No issues whatsoever. The gun is very pleasurable to shoot, very accurate. I'm just overall really impressed with it. Something else that I'm really liking is this non-reciprocating charging handle. I love it when the charging handles are out front. We don't have a charging handle in the back, and it's non-reciprocating, and it's kind of low profile. So I don't think it's really going to get in the way. So I do like that design, and so far it's functioning great. All right, so the next test I'm going to do is the bench rest or the barrier test. And once again, I know I'm only going out to 25 yards, but I'm just an average gun guy, and that's just how I review these guns, as I mentioned. So some people are going to ask, can that gun go out to 200 yards? Absolutely it can. But this is just the range I have access to when reviewing these guns. So here we go, 25 yards, shooting it from a bench, and I'm expecting this group to be pretty darn good. So here we go, another magazine, and let's see how tight I can get this group if I take the human element as much out of the equation as possible. And shooting this from the bench reminds me of another reason why I'm not a big fan of bullpups, because the action is in the back and you don't have much real estate out here in the front. They're kind of hard to shoot from a bench or a barrier, and depending on the accessories you have, you might not be able to do it at all. Now, the vertical foregrip I have on this rifle did come with it in the box. It's an MFT folding grip, which is kind of nice. But in general, most of the time bullpups are not very easy to shoot from a bench or a barrier. And I've always wondered if on the battlefield, if you're a soldier, is that going to get in the way, because you might need to shoot your gun from a bench or a barrier in combat, and this doesn't really give you as many options. But this one's okay. I was able to fold that out of the way and didn't have any issues. Now, as you can see, the accuracy of this gun is pretty darn good, for me anyway. And I have to say, this might be the most accurate bullpup I have ever shot. And I don't really shoot bullpups that good at all. So I'm very impressed. And I think a lot of that has to do with the design, but also with this trigger. All right, so the next thing I want to do is put this in the hands of my wife. I'm kind of curious what she's going to say. She really hasn't shot many bullpups. She did say, that gun looks really interesting. So let me load up another magazine, give it to her, and see what her thoughts are on this really interesting rifle. And so after shooting it, I asked her, what'd you think? What did you like? What didn't you like? And she actually said she liked everything about it. She took note that this rifle is a little bit on the heavy side, but due to its balance, it didn't make her tired holding it up for an extended period of time. She also remarked that the gun recoils very light, and I do agree, this gun recoils a lot lighter than many of the other bullpups and even AR-15s that I have reviewed in the past, so I am impressed with that as well. So the next test I want to do is the quick magazine change test. If you're interested in this gun, you might want to use it for competition or even home defense. So shooting this gun fast and being able to change out the magazine quickly might be something that you care about. So we're going to load up 2 of these magazines, and by the way, I've been going between a Magpul PMag and a standard aluminum AR mag with no issues. Sometimes magazine designs and bullpups cause issues, but this gun doesn't seem to have any issues whatsoever. So I'm going to shoot this thing as fast as I can, get the magazine out, get a fresh one in, and can I get this gun back in action as quickly as possible? So let's find out. Here we go, the quick magazine change test, and see if I encounter any problems. And yes, I did encounter a problem, and it's something that I mentioned earlier in this review. When it comes to the magazine release, it's right here by the bolt catch. It is really, really close. So I came in to drop this magazine because I don't want to take my shooting hand off the gun and come back here. I'm going to take my non-shooting hand. And when I came back here to push that button, I dropped the bolt. And that definitely slowed me down. And you heard that sound and it startled me. I was like, oh no, I dropped the bolt. And now I would be in a predicament. So that's why I want that magazine release to be up here somewhere else besides right next to the bolt catch. So I've learned my lesson. I know I need to be a little bit more careful when pushing this button. So we're going to try this test again and see if I can do any better. So let's get back to the range. And that was definitely a lot better. However, it's slower than many other guns that I've shot. And I think it's because, as one of my subscribers once said, reloading a bullpup is like reloading your armpit. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of reaching all the way back here. It's just not as ergonomic as having a magazine out front. I just prefer that a little bit more. And because that magazine button is right next to that bolt catch, I have to slow down and be a little bit more diligent when I press it. But when it comes to the trigger, this gun is really fast. It's just a little bit awkward, and that's one of the downsides about bullpups that I simply don't like. But I know if this was the only gun I shot, I could get used to it and probably get pretty fast with it. You just got to get familiarized with it. Alright, so the last thing I want to do is a mag dump test, and it's not really a test. It's just me wanting to shoot this gun fast because this thing is pretty darn awesome, it's pretty accurate, and this trigger is really nice. So I want to see how fast I can shoot it. So here we go. I'm going to load up one of these magazines, dump it as fast as I can, then we'll come back here and I'll give you guys my final thoughts. And I think when it comes to many rifles I've shot, and not just bullpups, this might be one of the fastest and most accurate I've ever fired and reviewed. So I am really impressed with this thing. The balance of this rifle is really good, and just pulling that trigger as fast as I can keep this gun on target. So when it comes to the performance of this gun, I am very, very impressed. So what are my final thoughts on the K&M Arms M17S chambered in 5.56? Is it the future of bullpups? Well, maybe, but I can unequivocally say this gun is the nicest bullpup I have ever reviewed. I am very impressed with it. It's still awkward. It's still weird to me. I think I still prefer AR-15s, but when it comes to bullpup rifles, I like this thing a lot. This thing definitely has changed my mind and probably puts this gun in the category of, I could definitely tolerate that. And if I was gonna buy a bullpup, I might be in the market for something like this. The gun is definitely high quality. It has a fantastic trigger. It's extremely accurate. And so it's a very fun gun to shoot, which is a very important characteristic of a gun for me when I review it. You get all this rail space up here to put any type of optics that you want. You could probably even put some iron sights on it. And even though we don't have any adjustments on the stock or the receiver, it's actually a pretty darn good length of pull. The only things I don't like about it are the controls. That's it. I just wish that magazine button was in a different place and we had a different safety, but those are very, very small gripes. So overall, when it comes to my star system, how would I rate the M17S by K&M Arms? Well, this thing easily gets 4.5 stars out of 5. I think I have rated this the highest out of every bullpup. This thing is pretty darn awesome. And I think if you're a bullpup fan, you're gonna absolutely love this gun. If you're not a bullpup fan, this might be a gun that you could tolerate and go, you know, they're not too bad. I have to say, this thing might have changed my mind a little bit on the bullpup design. So I am very, very impressed with it. It just runs great, very accurate, and as a bullpup, it's the most naturally shooting one I have ever reviewed. So 4.5 stars out of 5 for the K&M Arms M17S. So let me know in the comments section below, what do you think about this gun? Have you ever fired one, and do you own one? And do your experiences mirror mine? I would love to know. So, as always, thanks for watching.